Hello and welcome all back to Election Time News. Today is Monday, June 30th, 2025, and today we're going to be going over the map and just do a quick little history lesson here as I'm working on my sheet a bit more. Um, how many times each state voted for each party since and including 2000, just to show the polarization of the country. Um, because basically since 2000, the majority of states have voted for the same candidate every single time. And also just to show some interesting caveats to each of them as I'm going across the map. Election Time News, your one stop for all things elections and politics, from summations to poll reviews and news. Subscribe below for more content like this about American, Canadian, and Australian elections. Also, make sure to follow the Substack. I'm going to be posting a bit more there, as I've said. Remember, there's never a dull moment in politics. So, looking here at our map, we're going to start on, let's go in poll closing order. So, to start things off, we have Indiana. This is going to be 6 times voting for Republicans, voting for Bush twice. Then it did actually flip for Obama in 2008. He won it by a full percentage point, winning the 5 counties here, the largest ones in the state for the most part, Marion County as well. That's Indianapolis. Then he lost it by just over 10 points in 2012. And then, of course, Donald Trump has not won it by 16 points or more all 3 times that he has run for president. So, all but one time in the state of Indiana. Kentucky, solid red the entire time. This is interesting because it was a flip in 2000. Clinton won it by just under a point in 1996, but then Bush won it by 15 points. Then by 20 in 2004, McCain won it by only 16 points, which is pretty insane. 23, but then it has voted for Donald Trump by 20, basically 26 points or more all 3 times since then. So, and it's been a safe red state every single time. Virginia, this one's interesting because originally it was a red state. It had been for a while, going all the way back through the 1980s. All the way back, the last time it had voted blue was for LBJ in 1964. Flipped red for Nixon, and then continued to vote red, barely not voting for Carter in 1976, and then continued to vote red every single cycle until Barack Obama flipped it in 2008, and it has not voted Republican since. The closest it got was obviously in 2012 by 4. It actually shifted to the left into 2016. So from there, you have 2 Republican elections, and then you have 4 Democratic elections. So that's going to just be the third color here on the map. Next up, we do have the state of Vermont. This used to be a very, very Republican state, except it was actually the most Republican in the entire country. The only time it then slowly started moving to the left was in 1964. It started being back in the Republican column, but then after 1992, it has voted blue every single time since. And in 2020 and 2024, it gave Joe Biden and Kamala Harris their largest margins for any state in the entire country. Before that, it actually was Hawaii during the Obama years. And in 2004, it was Massachusetts. Vermont was only by 20. And in 2000, it was only by 10. But it still has voted blue every single cycle since then. And then also moving down to South Carolina, a solidly Republican state. The closest it got was only voting for McCain by 9, but then it has stayed consistently in the Republican column since. It has basically stayed exactly stagnant, proportional to the national popular vote. So, um, unless basically a candidate, as you see here, the trend is a quarter of a point to the right. So, unless the Democrats win the national popular vote by 17, they're very unlikely to win the state of South Carolina. Then we have Georgia, which was another solidly Republican southern state. It then went only for McCain by only 5.2 in 2008, 7.8 for Romney, and then it started showing more signs of cracking, 5.1 in 2016, and then Joe Biden narrowly pulled off a win by just under a quarter point in 2020 to then return to the Republican column in 2024. So it has voted Republican all but one time in this time period, interestingly putting it on the same column as Indiana. So then we go to the one of the shorter poll closing times. We start off with Ohio. This one was a pivotal swing state. It voted for the winner of the presidential election until 2020, when Donald Trump won it but lost the White House, but it stayed in the Republican column. So it has consistently voted for Trump by at least 8 points each and every time that he has run for president. Here was 8.03, and it was 8.1 in 2016, and all the way up to 11.2 in 2024. But there are two Democratic wins, both of them being by Barack Obama. Other than that, it has gone red each and every time. So that is going to be the third color here. Then we have West Virginia, which used to be a blue state. Matter of fact, it was actually one of the few states that Jimmy Carter won against Ronald Reagan in 1980. He won it by 4.5. But then in 1984, Reagan won it by 10.5. Dukakis managed to narrowly flip it in 1988. Clinton won it by 13 in 1992, and then in 1996, he won it by 15. Bush flipped it in 2000 by 6.5, and then it has trended to the right ever since, 13 to 27, and then Donald Trump won it by 42 points in 2016, being the second reddest state in the entire country consistently since, and it voted for Donald Trump this time by only 42, which is actually a slight loss in margin, but still very, very Republican state, and it has not voted blue at any point in that time. And then we get to North Carolina. This is actually the exact same as the other few. It was a very strong red state, and then Barack Obama managed to narrowly flip it in 2008 by less than Indiana, interestingly enough. Flipped red, and then continually voted very, very close. It has not had a single election since 2004 where it was over 5 points for either candidate. 2024 was 3.2, 2020 was 1.3, 3.7 in 2016, 2 points in 2012, and a third of a point in 2008. But it has still narrowly voted Republican each and every one of those times except for 2008. So it is going to go in that second column. And then we have 8 p.m., the largest poll closing time by electoral vote count. To start off, in Maine, we have the 2nd Congressional District, which has voted for Democrats 4 times and the Republicans 3. So that is then going to narrowly end up being a light shade here. It has voted for the Democrats 3 times. I don't need 7 colors. I just realized that I don't need 7 colors. If it's 7, then I need 4 each. And there won't be any that go equal. Alright, so I could just redo this. Use the wrong color. There we go. Okay, so now that's going to be a bit easier to denote these colors. And, alright, so alright, that's better. So it has gone blue one more time that it has gone red, and it only went to Gore by 2 in 2000, but then, of course, Obama won it by large amounts. Even Kerry won it by 6 points, but then Donald Trump won it by 10.3 in 2016, and then increasingly narrowing, 7.4, and then all the way up to 9, but in the popular vote actually did shift a bit to the left, in 2020 and 2024. The 1st district has gone blue each and every time, so that is not... Gore only won it by 8, but then there's sort of be a more drastic shift between the two, which was definitely highlighted in 2016 when Clinton won the 1st district by just under 15, but Trump won the 2nd by 10.3, and almost more so by this 23-point win in the 1st district in 2020, 7.5 win in 2020, 21-point win, and 9. So that's been a strong showing of the urban-rural divide increasing in the early 21st century. And then Maine statewide has narrowly voted for the Democrat each and every time. The closest cycle was 2016 when it voted for Clinton by 3, but it has narrowly voted blue each and every cycle. New Hampshire voted blue each and every time except for 2000, where it voted for Bush by 1.3%. So that is going to be a relatively solid blue state, but interestingly, it has not gone by more than just under 10. It was 9.6, almost 5.6, excluding the Obama years. Then you don't have any margins more than still 7.5. So it is still generally a relatively blue state when it does go into the Democratic column. All of these states have not gone red once. The entirety of New England. New Jersey, the closest it got, obviously, was a very, very close cycle. In 2004, Kerry only won it by 6.7, and Kamala Harris only won it by 5.9. So both of those were relatively close. But other than that, all of these other states have consistently gone by more than 10, other than in Delaware in 2004, 7.6 for Kerry. But the worst performance in most of these states was in 2024, where you had Rhode Island 14, Connecticut 14.5, Delaware 14.5, and then Maryland was 29. DC has gone blue every single election since it has gotten voting power in 1964 by at least 70 percentage points. So the state of Pennsylvania has been a key swing state, but even with that, it has only gone Republican twice since 2000, 2024 and 2016. Joe Biden narrowly won it in 2020. Obama won it by 10.3 and then 5.4. And Kerry won it by 2.5. Gore won it by 4.2. So all of these elections, except for those two, it did go blue. So it will be the same color as Virginia on the map here. Then we go off to the state of Alabama. So Alabama is a strong red state. It hasn't even really done much of anything other than just go to the right. 30.5 percentage points. That's a solid red state. Mississippi, same thing there. The closest it was in 2008, 13.2 for McCain. It has not gone blue in a long time. Tennessee, it flipped. Bush only won it by 4 points in 2000, but then he won it by 14.5 in 2004, 15 for McCain. It actually went a bit more to the right, 0.8% to the right. Romney won it by 20, Trump won it by 26, 23, and then went to almost 30 percentage points in 2024. So this is a safe Republican state, has been for a while. Illinois has gone blue each and every time since 2000. 10 points, 17, 17, 17, 25 points in 2008, 10.3 in 2004, and 12 in 2000. Missouri flipped in 2000, and then it was only 7.2 in 2004. It was very, very close in 2008. It was actually the closest state in the entire election. Second place was North Carolina. It was the closest state the entire election. McCain narrowly won it. 2012, then it went by 9.4, and then Donald Trump won it by almost 19, 15.5, and then 18.5. So it was very close to flipping in 2008, but it just narrowly did not. It has gone Republican every single time. And Oklahoma is one of the most Republican states in the entire country. It basically has voted right around 30% each and every time since 2000. It doesn't even really move that much either in respect to the nation. And then finally we have the state of Florida, which used to be a very strong swing state. Red twice, blue twice, red 3 times. So that is going to be all but 2 times. So that's going to be this color here, if I'm correct. No, it should be the same color as Ohio. Didn't update Ohio's color, that's dumb. Alright, so I'm gonna have to... Yep, MS is a little trippy sometimes. Okay. So, alright, there we go. So it's going to be the exact same color as Ohio, as it has voted red, all except 2 times in 2008 and 2012. Now we have half of the states left. 270 electoral votes, 268 are done. So next up we have the state of Arkansas. This has gone red each and every time. It's closing at 8:30. It was a flip in 2000 as Clinton had won it, along with a few other states in the South here. And that was the last time that any of these have gone blue, except for Iowa. All of these states, that was the last time they went blue. And of course, again, narrowly didn't in Missouri. And so with that, then we move on to the 9 p.m. poll closing time, which is going to start off with New York, which has gone blue each and every time. Gore won it by 25, Kerry by 18, Obama by 27, and then 28, Clinton by 23, Biden by 23, and then Harris by 12 and a half, which was the worst performance for a Democrat going back quite some time, past 1992, all the way back since 1988 when Dukakis flipped the state from Reagan the previous cycle and won it by 4.1%. So, but it was still blue, so that is still the same thing. Now, Michigan and Wisconsin are the exact same as Pennsylvania, as they have gone blue every single time except for 2016 and 2024. Those three states together have voted for the exact same candidate each and every time going back to 1992. So then we go over to Minnesota. This one has actually voted. This is the longest Democratic voting streak in the entire country. It has voted blue each and every time going back since Nixon's re-election landslide in 1972, and since then it has voted for the Democrat each and every time, being the only state to vote for Walter Mondale in 1984. So that is absolutely a full blue state. Iowa is almost on par with Ohio, except it actually voted blue one more time. So it is actually going to narrowly be the lightest shade of red here, as it voted Democratic 3 times and voted Republican 4. So it's going to be an R+1 state there. Louisiana has voted red each and every time. Again, it was a flip in 2000, but it's gone red each and every time since. North Dakota and South Dakota are very, very red states these days, 36 and 30. But even just back in 2008, Obama lost them by single digits, winning almost the entire East Coast here that is almost basically completely red. So even in 2008, these states were somewhat competitive, but they still narrowly escaped Obama being able to flip them, which would have been huge. But that did not happen, and so those have been voted red each and every time. Most of Nebraska has voted red each and every time. The first time that it split its electoral delegation was in 2008 when Barack Obama flipped the 2nd district. Donald Trump held on to it in 2016 after Romney flipped it, but then Biden flipped it and Harris held on. So, but it is still 4-3, which means that the Republicans have a light advantage here. Kansas has gone red a very long time. I believe it actually has the longest Republican voting streak in the entire country. Tied with quite a few states. Because here you have these ones were all broken during the Clinton years. Arizona was finally broken in 2020, as well as Georgia. So all of them have, except for a few states in here who are tied with Kansas, and also has the longest dry streak for Democratic senators. Wyoming, very, very red state, voted for Bush by 41. It hasn't really moved much of anywhere. It was the reddest state in the nation for quite a long time and still is to this day. Texas has narrowly dodged Democrats again and again. It was very, very red for the Bushes, who are from Texas. 23 points. Then it dropped all the way down to 12 in 2008, went up to 16 in 2012. 9 points for Trump in 2016, 5.5 for 2020, went up to 13.75 in 2024. But it has continued to escape Democrats. In New Mexico, it narrowly voted for Gore, and then it flipped for Bush. But other than the one election in 2004, it has voted for the Democrats each and every time. Colorado was a Republican stronghold for a very long time, and it finally cracked in 1992 for Clinton. Voted for Dole the following cycle, and then for Bush both times, before Obama flipped it in 2008 and has gone blue each and every other time. So it has voted blue all but twice, being on par with the Rust Belt trio. And then Arizona has voted Republican all but one time, being, of course, in 2020 when Joe Biden flipped it by just under a third of a percentage point. And it was a strong state for Bush. He won it by 6.5. It was actually a flip since 1996, but then flipped it. He held on by 10.5, which was interestingly the only time that it was a double-digit margin in Arizona, as Romney only won it by 9.1, McCain won it by 8.5, Trump won it by 3.5 in 2016. So, and even then, Trump only won it by 5.5 in 2024. So since 1996, going back since 1988, since and not including 1988, there has only been one double-digit margin race in Arizona. So it is a relatively competitive state continually. Then we move on to, I believe this is 10 p.m. Yes, 10 p.m. So starting off with Montana. This one was originally quite a bit of a swing state. Clinton won it in 1992, lost it narrowly in 1996. 2000, 2004 was relatively red, but then Obama only narrowly lost in 2008 by 2.5 percentage points. But then it went towards the right, and then Trump won it by 20, 16.5, and then 20. So it has voted red each and every time since 2000, but only narrowly. Utah, the exact same thing, except a bit more. It was the most Republican state in the entire country. 40.5 percentage points, 45.5. Only 28 for McCain, back up to 48 in 2012, but then only 18 for Trump in 2016, 20.5 in 2020, 21.5 in 2024. They do not seem to like Donald Trump in Utah, but they still have voted for him narrowly each and every time. And then Nevada, Bush won it both times. Obama flipped it. Clinton held on, so did Biden, but then Trump flipped it. So that means that it will slightly be a Democratic leaning state here, as it voted Democratic 4 times, Republicans 3. It has voted for the popular vote winner each and every time, except for 2000. So since 2004, it has the longest streak of voting for the national popular vote winner. 2004 was Bush, 2008 and 2012 was Obama, 2016 was Clinton, 2020 was Biden, 2024 was Trump. So then we go to Idaho. This is going to be another very strong Republican state. It hasn't gone blue since 1964, and even when it did, it only narrowly went for Johnson by under 2 percentage points. It has continually been solid red since then, including all the way in the 21st century. Then we have the West Coast blue wall. All 3 of these have gone blue each and every time since 2000. Although Oregon went for Gore by under half a percentage point, which was actually his closest, his 4th closest state. Wisconsin was actually closer in 2000, and so was Iowa, and obviously New Mexico was the closest state for Gore. So, relatively close, but then you go and Kerry wins it by 4.2, Washington by 7.2. California is actually closer, and that is generally how Bush manages to win the popular vote, is also with a bit of a reduced margin, quite a bit of reduced margin in New York as well as in New Jersey. But then, since Obama, all 3 states have gone by at least 14 percentage points, Oregon continually being the least, only 12 in 2012, 11 for Clinton, but then it goes 16 for Biden and 14 for Harris. So all of them have gone by at least 11 percentage points since 2008. They are all securely, in this day and age, they are now securely in the Democratic column, even though California is moving hard to the right. Hawaii is another very strong Republican state that has voted blue each and every time. However, in 2004, it only voted for Kerry by 8.7, but then it voted for Obama. His home state voted for him by 45.5, 43, and then dropped all the way down to 32 for Clinton, 30 for Biden, one of the few states that voted to the right of where it did in 2016, and then 23 for Harris. So it has been dropping very quickly. And then finally, Alaska has voted red each and every time. It has only voted blue once, and that was in 1964. It got voting power in 1960, voted blue in 1964, and then has voted red each and every time since. And it actually only was under 10 points once, which was in 1992 when Bush won it by 9.2%, and also when Nixon flipped the state back in the Republican column to continue for the rest of the entire calendar in 1968, where he won it by just over 2.5. So that completes the entire map. In general, 276 to 262 doesn't mean that much, though. That just means that, in theory, the Democrats will have won more presidencies, which I believe actually 2, 1, 2, 3 actually is not true. Republicans have won 4 presidencies in the 21st century. Democrats have won 3. But that just means that there's a few states that just flipped enough just to barely make the math work out that way. As for example, in the blue wall recently, the states that have been the conditions for winning have changed, and also the only true blowout in the 21st century was 2008, which was for a Democrat, which breaks down that math a little bit more. That also gave the one extra in Nevada, that gave the one in Maine as well. But in this scenario here, we can see that we can see that most of the states, 154 of those 162 for the Republicans, have voted red each and every time, and 193 of the Democrats, 276, have voted blue each and every time, which just goes to show how consistently states have been voting for one party or the other, especially since the beginning of the current political era, which is generally around 2000. Thank you all so much for watching today's video. Make sure to subscribe if you're not already. Check out the Substack. I'm going to be posting more there again. I'm going to also be working more on the sheet, of course, maybe getting another 2028 video out in a bit. So thank you all so much for watching, and have a fantastic rest of your day.